When he arrives in the NFL, a league full of the biggest, fastest, and strongest athletes, Nick Emmanwori is still going to stand out. At 6'3", 220 pounds, which is absolutely massive for a safety, Emmanwori still had an all-time great combine, running a 4.38 40-yard dash and posting an 11.5-foot broad jump. This is an exciting selection, and he has tremendous upside, but I want to dive into the film and really talk about his true strengths and weaknesses, and why I'm a little bit off consensus on who Emmanwori is entering the league. Nick Emmanwori is a tremendous run defender. So many people right now are trying to compare Emmanwori to Cam Chancellor, and while I disagree in many places, they are strikingly similar in how they defend the run from the box. Let's start with this play against Missouri. Here, Emmanwori is basically just playing linebacker. The offense is in a heavy pistol formation and is threatening to run the ball downhill. And South Carolina isn't ready. They're in nickel personnel, which means they have 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Nickel is more of a passing down personnel grouping, and it's a poor fit for how run-heavy this offense looks to be. And that is where Emmanwori's flexibility is put on full display. This is split flow inside zone from the offense. The tight end is coming across on the split flow action, and they have a double team on the 3 technique, which will climb to Emmanwori. Emmanwori plays this like a linebacker. He diagnoses where the run is going, quickly jumps out of the way of the center who is trying to climb and seal him out, and then makes the tackle. Now, to be very clear, Emmanwori is not going to switch to linebacker. He still can't take on blocks consistently enough to play there full time. But as a player who can moonlight at this position and give the defense flexibility to play nickel even against heavy rushing formations, he can be really useful. He brings flexibility and impact down in the box, and this is where some of his best tape lies. Here's another play against Missouri that really shows how much of an impact Emmanwori has when he's down in the box. The Tigers are running a jet sweep away from Emmanwori. This is a nice design with the tight end arcing out to block the overhang defender. But you have to love the speed and the pursuit from Nick Emmanwori. He sprints all the way across the field to deliver a powerful hit. To me, this is the tape that Mike Macdonald fell in love with. Having a player who can come down and be a presence in the box, as well as running sideline to sideline, is really important for this defense. As a box run defender, Emmanwori does everything that you could look for. Now, we do have to start talking about weaknesses already, because while Emmanwori is dominant in the box, when he's playing safety, it's a very different story. Here, Emmanwori is playing as a single high safety. On this play, he does a good job of coming down on time, but the angle that he takes to the ball carrier is terrible. His job is to be the last line of defense and ensure that the run doesn't break away. You have to understand where you have help, which in this case you have help on the inside, and you have to understand where the ball can't go, which here is to the outside. But he just flies downhill like he's going to meet the ball carrier in the middle of the field. The ball bounces to the outside, and although Emmanwori has the speed to make the play, in the NFL, you have to take better angles. You have to know what you're looking at and what your role needs to be, and go fill that role in run support. Here against LSU, it's the same story. Emmanwori is rotating down and takes a terrible angle on the running back. And this play right here is probably one of the worst run defense plays on his tape. This is outside zone towards the top of our screen, and Emmanwori is again the deep free safety. And I just don't know what he's doing. First, he starts by not triggering and pursuing the run, and then by the time he gets there, he completely overruns it, and he's lucky that the running back slides down. In the NFL, you need to be aggressive and go fill this running lane. Yes, the safety needs to stay behind and watch for the cutback, but that doesn't mean that you should just stand in the middle of the field. If you're going to play safety, you need to be able to come down and tackle against outside zone. Julian Love is excellent at this. Mike Macdonald expects this out of his safeties, and Emmanwori was really poor at defending the run when he's not in the box. And unfortunately, we still have more weaknesses to get through as we transition towards Emmanwori as a coverage defender. And I want to stop right here and address the comparisons between Emmanwori and guys like Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James. Hamilton and James can do everything. They can defend the run from the box and also from deep. They have the instincts to play low zone coverage as well as deep zone coverage, and they have the man skills to man up on tight ends and receivers. That is a wild profile. And Emmanwori doesn't have that. To me, these comps are absurd. Emmanwori is massive like Hamilton and James, and he can defend the run from the box, and I do like him manned up against tight ends, but that's pretty much it. His zone instincts are a mess, particularly from depth, and he's not fluid enough to man up against receivers. Let's dig into this film, starting with this play against Texas A&M. Emmanwori is playing a version of Palms coverage to the top of her screen. Palms is a zone match coverage, which means it's kind of a blend between man and zone principles. I'm planning to do an entire video on how this all works, but what we need to know right now is that Palms is a very popular coverage at all levels of football, and at least against this 10-yard out route, Emmanwori is basically playing man coverage on this receiver. And he just doesn't stay with him. For how much we've talked about Emmanwori as an exceptional athlete, there's a reason why this guy didn't do any of the agility drills at the combine. Straight line speed and explosion, yes, he's absolutely got it, but he's actually a fairly stiff player when he needs to turn his hips. And even though the ball is behind the receiver, Emmanwori is still late. This is a play that Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James would make in their sleep. They are fluid athletes with excellent instincts, and this isn't a problem for them. But it is a problem for Emmanwori. And then we have his instincts when playing deep zones. On this play, South Carolina is in a Tampa 2 zone, and Emmanwori is one of the half-field coverage defenders. The Aggies are running a version of the smash concept, which is a classic cover 2 beater. You have something underneath to occupy the boundary corner, and then you run a corner route right behind it. This is the weakness of this coverage. The corner is going to have to come down, and that leaves a massive window away from the deep safety for the corner route. And again, when we're talking about zone instincts, a lot of it is understanding what the offense is trying to do and then reacting. That's just not what Emmanwori does. He stays planted in his zone with his eyes on the quarterback. I'm not asking him to abandon his zone assignment or play match coverage, but you need to know what's happening. From right here, you should already know that the only thing that's going to hurt you right now is this smash concept. You can't play zone coverage from a static look, and Emmanwori is constantly static. I have one more to look at, and I'm sorry to keep hammering this point home, but I think that it's important. Here against LSU, the Tigers are in a 3-by-1 formation, and South Carolina is running what Nick Saban calls cover 7 clip. Basically, this is a way to play straight up quarters against a 3-by-1 formation. Here's how this works. The base of quarters is built to cover 2 receivers. So when offenses get into 3-by-1 formations, you have to get creative with how you're going to cover the number 3 receiver. Here, the idea is they're going to have the weak safety execute what is known as a poach call. He takes the vertical of number 3, with the Mike linebacker taking the underneath coverage. Then to the outside, you just run quarters like you always would. This is a brilliant adjustment. On the backside, you just man up the linebacker with the running back and have the corner take the receiver out wide. That allows you to use your poach safety, and then you get numbers to the passing strength with 5 defenders over 3 receivers. But despite his speed, Emmanwori just doesn't get there fast enough. As we can clearly see from this back angle, he's keen on the number 3, but you have to be ready for this. He doesn't start running towards the route until the tight end is already past the underneath defenders and the quarterback is unloading the ball. This just isn't how you run this coverage, and despite his speed, this was an easy chunk for the offense. The entire LSU game was really rough for Emmanwori. Here he does an awesome job of turning to run with a crosser, but then he panics and commits blatant pass interference when he really doesn't need to. And then on the last play of the game, he ends up falling over trying to get back to cover another crossing route. It was a really rough day in coverage. When you watch Emmanwori in that game, he just doesn't look like a player that you would trade up to the top of the second round to select. While I do think the value of the trade in a vacuum was pretty good, it wasn't too expensive, but with the 82nd pick that the Titans got in the trade back, they took safety Kevin Winston Jr. Would the combination of Kevin Winston Jr. and a corner or a receiver at pick 52 have been better than Emmanwori? I'm not saying that it would, but these are the questions that you have to ask. Okay, let's get to some positives for Emmanwori in coverage, because there are some. He can deliver the physicality that you look for over the middle of the field and when coming downhill. That's probably when he looks best as a coverage defender. You do wish that this physicality would be a little bit more consistent, but it is in there for sure, and I know that Mike Macdonald loves that. And there are some highlights where his explosion does serve him well in quick areas, like this play against Texas A&M. There are some flashes of high-level play in coverage, and we do have to talk about the interceptions. They are great plays. They don't change what I think about Emmanwori as a coverage defender on the whole, but it is nice to see some playmaking skills there. But at the end of the day, Emmanwori is a poor coverage safety. Against tight ends and close to the line of scrimmage in underneath zones, I think he can be pretty good from day one. But there's a long ways for him to go before he can have the instincts to be able to play safety. But we are going to end on something positive. We've talked a lot about how I love Emmanwori in the box, but I think he's a major project at safety. Well, let's listen to Mike Macdonald describe how he's going to use Nick Emmanwori in his first year.
This is interesting because, like, I think you got to let it happen about what he's going to do well. I think a safe bet is going to be at the second level initially, like at nickel, some dime reps, but he's going to train to be a safety too and give us the flexibility there.
That clip right there is what gives me a lot of hope for Emmanwori in Seattle. I've spent this entire video outlining why, according to his tape, slotting him in as your starting safety would be a bad idea. And Mike Macdonald agrees. They're going to start with him patrolling around the middle of the field as either a nickel or dime player in that role that Cam Chancellor thrived in. He is more of a Rayshon Jenkins replacement than a Kobe Bryant replacement, at least for right now. At the end of the day, I'm giving this selection a C+ grade. I don't love trading up for him, and I think that his coverage tape is really concerning, but the physical profile is genuinely unreal, and I do believe that Mike Macdonald is going to be able to get the most out of him. He has to reach his upside for this to be worth it, and that is why I have a lower grade, because I think the floor is really low for the assets that the Seahawks spent on him, but the upside is undeniable. He has all-pro potential in this system. And Mike Macdonald has a plan. Despite my concerns that I've seen on tape and my issue with the value of trading away draft picks to go get him, when you have a player with this level of talent and a coach who has a plan for how to weaponize him in the system, you have to get excited. If you're super excited about Emmanwori, don't let this video take away from that at all. I have some questions about the floor of who he will be if he doesn't develop, but I am as excited as anyone for the upside that Emmanwori brings. Subscribe for more Seahawks film breakdowns. We'll have a video on the dynamic tight end Elijah Arroyo coming out soon, and we'll also have a day 3 video coming up after that, where I look at the film of all of the day 3 picks, as well as some of the UDFA class. Subscribe for that. Thanks for watching, and go Hawks.